What's up, folks? So I know a lot of you, quite a lot of you, have commented in the past few videos actually that you wanted me to do a kind of a video talking about my fish tanks. So, well, I feed my big tank here. I feed it once a week with live feeders, and today is the day that the live feeders came in. So I'm going to start the video with that. Alright folks, so that was the feeding of my tank. I've never really done a tank video before. I mean, I've done a video of just the tanks, but I've never actually done a video where I talk about my tanks. So I don't really know where to start. Let's see. You know what? Let me just turn the camera around and yeah. Okay, so this is my predatory fish tank. Well, I guess somewhat predatory fish tank. I've had this tank for about I think 8 years now. It's a 6 foot by 2.5 feet by 2 feet tank. It's about 850 liters. That's inclusive of the sump that I have down in there. I think so. Yeah. Anyway, so what I have inside is I've got patches. Sorry, the reflection. Yes, I've got patches right here. My Oscar. I've got 2 Sabaros. I've got 2 zebras, which I caught from Pandan recently, and yeah, they're in there doing just fine. I've got an American tiger, which is, it likes to hide there, and I also have an Indonesian snakehead, which, yeah, he probably ate something and went into hiding. And of course, I feed them with mollies or swordtails, depends on what I can get my hands on, because I've got to feed pretty decent quantities of them. So yeah, nothing much else to say. This is a soft water aquarium. I've got wood inside, driftwood. Yeah, so it's been like 8 years, maybe more, since I set up this tank. So excuse me if I don't remember certain things about certain aspects or certain things about the tank. I think I spent about $180 on all this driftwood. Right here, it might look like a tree stump, but it's actually like 7 pieces of wood that I arranged and put on top of one another to look like a tree stump. It was pretty funny because when I first set up this tank, because it was different pieces of wood, the wood was all like different shades of brown and stuff, so it kind of looked pretty funny. But in about maybe 6-8 months, when the wood really soaked in and stuff like that, and it started looking like this. So basically, this is a really mature aquarium. Of course, it's seen its fair share of different fish. It didn't start off as a somewhat predatory fish aquarium. It started off actually as a South American aquarium, where I had earth eaters, geophagus, I had some leucosticas, I had daemons inside, so a whole bunch of earth eaters. I had autumn angelfish. And yeah, so I had that in there for a few years, and then eventually I just decided that I wanted a change, so I gave away the earth eaters. Not the plecos though. Plecos have been there, resident plecos, for all the way since the start of the tank. So yeah, and then I started gradually putting all these predatory fish inside, predatory cichlids. And this is what we've ended up with. If you guys remember, I did have PBs in there. They just got way too big. I mean, 3 PBs in this small tank. Okay, it's not a small tank, but for 3 fully grown PBs, yeah, it's a small tank. And I'm not really a fan of keeping oversized fish in small aquariums, which is why, if you notice, all the fish I have in there now have kind of a limited size that they can get to. Learned the hard ways. The PBs got too big. I had to release them, and yeah, and I caught them from the wild and released them back to the wild. So no, I'm not doing some illegal crap, releasing fish that weren't there to begin with. So yeah. Anyway, let's see what else. Oh, okay, I guess we can talk about the tank itself, right? This is what you call Let me see if I can. Okay, so this is what you call an over-underflow sump tank. Okay, basically you have the overflow column over here and the underflow. Right, so water flows over, gets sucked from under, it goes up, it comes back down into that little corner right there. So water flows down, it goes down to the bottom. Let me switch on the lights real quick. Okay. Right, so it flows down from there and it enters this overflow chamber, and this is my filtration right here. Okay, I've got two Eheim pumps, German brand. I can't even remember the model name, it's been so long. So yeah, this is my sump. A sump is basically a tank under a tank that holds all your filter media. I've got my biomedia right there, I've got mechanical filtration, I've got the wool that I just change out whenever it gets clogged. And so yeah, mechanical to biological. I don't use any chemical filtration because chemical filtration, frankly, is just not necessary unless you're medicating the tank or anything. So yeah, I guess maybe to some of the guys in the West, they're probably looking at my sump and going like, holy crap, that's a lot of filter media you have in there. And, oh wait a minute, something on the... Okay, I thought there was something on my lens. So yeah, they're probably looking at my filtration and going like, holy crap, that's a crap ton of biological media you have in there. A little bit too much for a tank that size, but I don't know, maybe it's a culture thing. That's kind of how it's done by most of us here in Singapore, I guess. I know bio balls are popular in the West as a biological media, but in Singapore we just kind of use these ceramic stuff, which supposedly have a lot more surface area because it's porous. It has a lot more surface area to hold beneficial bacteria than bio balls. The irony here is that's supposed to enable you to use less, and I've got a crap ton in there. Look, it was 8 years ago, right? 8-9 years ago. I just set it up the way I was taught at the time. If I were to do it all over again, I'd probably do it with easily half or less than half of the biological media that's in there. Anyway, let me explain to you how a sump works. Alright, let's see. So, water comes down from the overflow chamber, it goes into this chamber, it overflows. Alright, so that's why it's called an overflow sump. Okay? All of these chambers are overflow chambers. Water goes in, it overflows into the mechanical filtration, it goes down, it comes back up, it overflows into the biological chamber number 1, it goes down, it goes up, it overflows into the biological chamber number 2, and then it ends up in the reservoir, which is here, where the two pumps then pump the water back up into the tank, into that pipe, into that pipe. Okay, oh wow, from this angle, it's a pretty good angle. Yeah, I should probably put a camera at this angle when I clean the glass so I can get everything. Look at that, you can see everything that's wrong with my glass right now. Alright, so what else? They got a pH meter right there. It's not, you know, pH monitors, they're supposed to be changed ever so often. I haven't changed mine in like 6 years, so I wouldn't trust that reading, though I am not surprised that it's there. I believe the pH in the water depends on when I do a water change. When I do a water change, the pH will go up, probably closer to 6.8 or 7, and then after I do a water change roughly every couple of weeks. So right immediately after a water change, the pH is going to be around 7, 6.8 to 7, and then 2 weeks in, just before I do the water change, the pH will probably drop to sometimes even as low as 5.8 because of the bioload in the tank, the amount I feed them. You know, predatory fish tanks, the bioload is pretty high, especially when you have a lot of plecos in there, and I have a lot of plecos. I know it doesn't look like it, but those experienced in keeping plecos, you know that with the piece of wood like that, you're gonna have plecos hiding all up in there. I think I'm more than 10 plecos in there. Now, I don't have that many plecos because I necessarily love plecos. Alright, here's a story behind the plecos. Let me just close this up. Alright, of course over there, I have to turn the lights off, otherwise the reflection will be a bit too bad and I won't be able to get any footage of that tank. So you got my my African cichlid tank. It's my Malawi tank, and then in the corner over there, that's my planted tank. So here's a funny story about the plecos. All right, see if I can get the view right so that at least you can see the tank behind me. All right, so here's the funny story about the plecos. One of my, in fact, my best friend was the one that got me into fish keeping, and he's one of those really hardcore. When you get into something, you get into it really hardcore, like all the way kind of things. And so this buddy of mine and I, it's always either me taking after his hobbies or him taking after my hobbies. And fish keeping was one of the hobbies that I took after him. And him being the hardcore guy, he was always into plecos and all the, basically the more expensive the fish, the harder the fish is to keep, discus and all that, finicky fish. Yeah, he's done all of that. And I got the fortunate position of being the guy to receive all his hand-me-downs. You know, when he wanted to change something in his tank, and he would be like, hey, I'm looking to sell, come get rid of XYZ fish, do you want it? And quite often those were plecos, because there was a period where he was kind of in the pleco trade. Not that he was like a full-fledged pleco seller, but he did for quite a while ship in tons of plecos and pick some for himself, group of friends, and then sell the rest of them. So yeah, plecos were quite often a hand-me-down, which is why I have so many plecos. Don't ask me the name, the L numbers. I can't. There was a point where I could remember all the L numbers, but right now, no. I just, yeah. I do know which plecos are which. Obviously, they've been here for so long, but I just don't know the L numbers. Anyway, let's see what else. Yeah, so the plecos, some of them have been here for 8 years. Those are the really big ones. Some of them are hand-me-downs. In fact, when it was a South American aquarium, my autumns were hand-me-downs from him. Most of my earth eaters were hand-me-downs, except for the leucosticas, because those were pretty rare during the period where I was keeping them. You'd see a lot of daemons, Satanoperca daemons, and then the Satanoperca leucostica, two different subspecies. And then of course you have a Geophagus, you've got different species of that. Yeah, so those were all a lot of them were hand-me-downs as well. So that's kind of my story when it comes to this tank. No, the tank wasn't a hand-me-down. Now that one I obviously had it built, and of course, as you can see, the rest of the room it's the same. It's the same finish as the rest of the furniture. So I basically got the code that I use for the laminate in my furniture, and I told the tank builder, hey, can you build me a cabinet sump and use this particular laminate for the cabinet? And that's basically how I got everything in my room and in my man cave to kind of match. All right, what else? My maintenance routine: water change every 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. Honestly, that's the benefits of having a tank this big. I'm not crazily stocking it with fish. You know, some folks, especially monster fish keepers, of course, many different camps. Let's not get into the whole this camp, that camp, this school of thought, that school of thought. My maintenance routine: a tank with this size, this kind of water volume, with the extra water volume from the sump, and get away with about, the longest I've gone is probably 5 weeks without water changing, without issue. So I do try to keep up the water changes every 2 weeks, and I usually do that water change before I feed the live feeder. So I just did a water change today. And okay, how do I do my water changes? Here's for those of you who keep fish but have never kept a tank with a sump, that's one benefit of having a sump. Okay, so let me show you. All right, so the benefits of having a sump is everything that you do to the tank is done via the sump, except for feeding, which means if my fish get sick, I medicate via the sump. So I put the medication in there, it gets distributed to the rest of the tank via the pumps. When I do a water change, unlike a normal tank, where when you change the water, you suck water out from the main tank, the water level drops, and then you top it back up via the main tank. When you have a sump, you top up the water and extract the water from the sump. And what that basically does is the water level in the tank never changes. Alright, the water level never changes. Even if you drain the bottom compartment completely, it won't change the water level on top. It'll overflow and it'll stop because my pipes all have holes in them to prevent the backflow of water. But that's not all that I did for my tank, because I still felt that the maintenance routine, water changing a sump aquarium, was still a bit too much. You got to be realistic. When you keep fish, it's a lot of work. At one point I had, 7 or 8 aquariums in my man cave. That's a lot of work. Yeah, I had to find a way to streamline everything to the point where I only had to do maintenance for about 2 hours a week. Yeah, 8 aquariums, I only did about 2 hours of maintenance a week, excluding cleaning the glass, of course. So what I went ahead and do, since this is the man cave and everything in here exists in my realm, in my rules, what I mean is, until I got married, no one really had a say on what goes on in this room. Now that I'm married, yeah, things are a little bit different. Not that it's bad, it's just different, right, Mrs. BCSG? Okay, I don't think she heard me. So yeah, little additional thing I did, if you take a look, you can see that copper pipe. That is a copper pipe that is connected directly to my water main in the house. So basically when I do a water change, I simply turn on the tap, essentially. Fresh water goes in here, where I put my anti-chlorine as well. And you see that pump over there? That pumps water out. So water goes out straight into the balcony. Every balcony has that little trap, okay? So water gets pumped out straight into the water trap, straight down the sewage pipe to wherever that goes. Straight down the sewage pipe, water comes in straight here. And I'm basically doing what you call a consistent water change, where water goes in as it's being pumped out. It took me a very long time to work out the formula to balance the flow rate in with the flow rate out. I have that pump adjusted to the point where I turn on the tap, I turn on the pump, I don't need to touch anything. I just start my countdown timer. I put the anti-chlorine every 15 minutes. I run the water change for about an hour, and that changes about 40% of the water in the tank. So yeah, eight aquariums, right? I had to get everything streamlined to that extent, where everything is down to math. I have to calculate everything really carefully just to make sure that I can do my maintenance like that. Leave it water changing. I know exactly my stopwatch beeps. I come back, put in the anti-chlorine, a fixed amount of anti-chlorine, restart the timer, another 15 minutes, come back, do that again. Repeat that 4 times for an hour, and I'm done. I do that for this tank as well. Of course, this tank, a lot less bioload. Malawi cichlids are not that high of a bioload compared to predatory fish, especially when you feed live feeders the way I do. Now, I don't just feed live feeders here, I do feed normal fish food as well. Almost all the fish in here eat both live feeders and fish food, except for the Indonesian snakehead. That guy's a bit finicky when it comes to food, only eats live feeders and market prawns. Some of you who are experienced in fish keeping, or at least maybe you're interested in keeping some sort of predatory fish, you might be. The first question that might pop into your head is, do you quarantine your feeder fish? Well, if the question is, do I advise you to quarantine your feeder fish? The answer is yes, I definitely advise you to quarantine all your feeder fish. Do I? No, I don't. I get my feeder fish straight from a farm. That doesn't mean I don't need to quarantine them, but if you get your fish from an aquarium shop, now that's where things get really complicated, because they get their fish from a farm, which is fine, right? Where the diseases come in is when the fish get to the shop and they put it in their tanks, which is usually on a central filtration system with all their other tanks, and they get fish shipped in every single day. Hundreds of fish, thousands of fish from all over the world. That's where all the funky, wonky diseases come from, and these guys come straight from the farm to me, and they go in my tank. So to answer your question, I don't quarantine my feeder fish anymore. I used to, hardcore, like 3 weeks quarantine, medication and stuff like that, and I just realized that that wasn't all that necessary. But guidelines, do quarantine your fish, guys, okay? Let's see. Do I do anything for tank stability other than water changes? No, my tank it's a very mature aquarium, 8 years. My biological media has been stable for like 7.5 years. I probably once a year, once every 8 months, I do a complete clean of the biological media, which means basically I take the bags of biomedia out, put them in the reservoir, shake them around, all the gunk comes up here, filtered out by the thing. Yeah, it's just one of those spring cleaning things that I do about once a year. Yeah, so we have my planted tank and my Malawi tank, which I will probably talk about sometime in the future. And that's it, I guess. How do I end the aquarium video? If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. Share my videos with your fish keeping friends, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Tight cabinets, tight covers, I don't know, tight whatever. Right, see ya.